what's up guys, we're here with a video, and this is going to be a review of the ban list review. So I'll link this down in the description here, and this is Konami's, which I commend them for actually trying to explain their ban list for once, which is pretty cool. It's good to see that they're actually trying to interact a little bit more, which is, you know, awesome, of course. And this is yeah, so they've pretty much released an article on their website, which, like I said, I'll put in the description down below, talking about their ban list and why they did certain things and such. So let's just have a little read here. So we can see that it is a typical update size with a total. Let me zoom in a bit actually, so you guys can like read it as I go along. We can see that it is a typical update in size with a total of 17 changes. In order to discuss the changes, I will group them by each affected deck, blah blah blah. Okay, so Monarchs. Considered by many to be the big loser of this new FL list, Monarch decks are affected by the limitations of Aether, Pan, Stormforth, all of which have typically been included 3 times in recent lists. With this change, Monarch decks lose valuable consistency, will have to risk unplayable hands much more often. It's not really an explanation. Like, that's literally saying like, oh, so we hit that because we're going to make it more inconsistent. That's their solution, is to make it more inconsistent. Rather than actually addressing the power of the deck, they're just saying we're just going to make your deck more inconsistent, which I don't think is the right way to go about a ban list, but anyway. So Pendulum decks, which often use both the Performa PAL and Mage Spectre engine, have to play entirely without Monkey Board from now on, and can only run a single copy of the very powerful Kirin. Limitation of Call also weakens one of the many different ways this deck generates card advantage. Do they know what card advantage is? Pendulum Call, it does not generate advantage. Okay. This reduces their consistency and makes them much less likely to overpower any field. Kirin is not a consistency card. That's just like, Kirin is not a consistency card. Call is, sure, fair enough, but like, when was the last time we saw anyone top with Call? I haven't seen anyone run this card since like November. And Monkey Board is, I mean, at 1 you can't really call it a consistency card. You know, most of the time you get this through Odd Eyes in the end phase or Sorcerer. This reduces their consistency and makes them much less likely to overpower any field. Their general game plan, however, still works fine, and they might just be around for the next format, even if they won't be as strong as they were. Metal Foes from the Dark Illusion also fit nicely into Pendulum Framework and will bring a new form of this long-lasting deck to life. Well, I mean, at least they said that bit, right? But I mean, this is actually a joke. Like, talking about card advantage and stuff, like just using very incorrect terms. That's really kind of embarrassing, honestly. BA, with Seer going from semi-limited to limited, Burning Abyss lose one notable effect that was used frequently to special summon more monsters. The far greater impact, though, will be the limitation of Beatrice. So you're limiting Seer because it so used frequently to special summon more monsters. I don't really understand. They haven't explained why they're limiting Seer. Because it special summons less. It's gonna special summon less monsters. It's once per turn, so it's always going to special summon less monsters, regardless if it's at 2 or 3. Now, the reason why Seer should have been banned is because of the fact that its interaction with Dante, being able to recur the same Dante over and over again to be able to rank it up into Beatrice, which, fair enough, is, you know, has been limited, and that was a good hit, which is an important high-end monster in the deck and makes it much more sturdy when facing Destruction Fence. With only one copula, this is a strategy that can no longer be used over and over again. The deck's general mechanics still work perfectly though, and neither of these changes affect their keycards, which is the Burning Abyss is seen by many as the winner of this new FL list. Well, this isn't the worst reasoning ever. At least they got that right. Cosmo. The deck loses 2 copies of its primary boss monster and has to reduce its E-Tele to just 1. Several copies of DD were often crucial for huge Cosmo turns, but since the deck is able to reuse many of its resources and access most of its decks through Tin Can, this change will not make the deck completely unplayable and instead only reduce its consistency, which seems to be the common theme of this FL list. So I mean, we've talked about this on stream, and we've said that, you know, Konami have reduced the consistency of decks rather than their power, you know, which is fine, but then like, all that does is make games even more varied than this format is notorious for. This format is quite notorious for having very high levels of variance, where some hands you just can't win with, some hands you just can't lose with. So their idea with this ban list is to exacerbate that situation, and that's just horrible. because now you're just adding more variance into the format, you know, with this list. That's literally what they're saying. They're saying we're going to make it less likely that you open broken, but you can still open broken. You know, and I don't think that's very good, like, reasoning. Anti-decks and techs. Maxi has been one of the most popular tech choices in recent tournaments, and many of those have been running them in their main deck for a while. With the abundance of special summons in current meta, Maxi was able to force the opponent to a very awkward decision, and semi-limiting it will again reduce the consistency of deck. Maxi was able to force the opponent into a very awkward decision. What, you mean you don't like that people have to think? I don't understand this reasoning. It puts people into an awkward situation? Okay. Is that bad? Oh no, I have to think. Like, really? On the other hand, easy access to Kaiser Coliseum could completely shut down an opponent after a strong opening, making a comeback much harder and sealing games before they even really started. Kaiser Coliseum could completely shut down an opponent after a strong opening. Blah blah blah. Sealing games before they even started. Kaiser Coliseum could completely shut down an opponent after a strong opening, sealing games before they started. That's all I have to say about that entry. Thunder King Ryo has fallen out of favour recently and is no longer the powerful lock card it once was, so we could see seeing the first part of a two-step removal of Thunder King Ryo from the FL list. So your reasoning for banning Kaiser Coliseum, a card that nobody plays, is because it ends the game before it really starts. Does anyone remember Necro's format? What was that thing that Necros did? Search? What does Thunder King do to search decks? Before we move on to the other section, I just want to say, you know, I'm not exactly like... I don't want to be overly critical, because it's amazing that they're even talking in the first place, which you could argue should be baseline and standard for the first place, and why hasn't this been happening for the last 10 years anyway? But this is a joke. Like, this is piss poor reasoning. They would have been, honestly, they should have just not written this, or they should have gave a different reason. Like, any monkey can see the hole in this logic. Like, anyone can see the hole in this logic. Let's ban Kaiser because it ends the game before people really get a chance to play, and this was what happened today. As of recording this, this was your finals. Like, how long was that match? We didn't even like see. Like, there, look, anti-spell. Look, he just picks up his deck. What are you? How do you use this logic to do this, you know? And everyone's going to like shit on this video and dislike it probably because I say like every floodgate in the game needs to be removed and banned immediately, which is fine. You know, I've said that many times. And why do I think that final is an example of why that needs to stop? People use arguments like, oh, it slows the game down and stuff like that. No, it doesn't. It stops the game. You can't play. You cannot physically do anything. How can you get rid of Kaiser Coliseum but keep anti-spell in the game? It's beyond me. It's absolutely like this doesn't go down. Like, this logic doesn't go down with any sane human being. It just makes no sense, honestly, and I don't know how like they have the audacity to like say something like Kaiser Coliseum is overpowered because it stops the game and doesn't let anything happen before they even really started, and you know, we had the final decided in 3 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's whatever. Alright, so Wind Up Magician was a part of a long forgotten deck that has no relevance in the current metagame. It's most probably on its way to being completely unlimited with the next update, but Wind Up deck's not likely to turn even with access to Wind Up Magician. What about Inzectors, yo? Just saying. Gold Circle was a key card in many combo decks several formats ago, but the very high consistency of recent deck archetypes makes generic search cards far less valuable. So even in its unlimited state, Gold Sark is unlikely to see any more play than it did in recent years. Finally, both Restrict and Allure are now completing second part of their typical two-step removal from FL list after the loosening of their limitations. The last update went well and didn't bring back any toxic FTK decks. Well, I'm glad they think FTKs are toxic. That's really good. Conclusion: the overarching theme of this FL list update is a reduction of the consistency of most dominant decks in the current format. None of them become entirely unplayable, but some lose more consistency than others. Additionally, several cards are removed from the typical two-steps, bringing back consistency and powers to old decks that have been out of the format for a long time. So, number one, the thing that, you know, I think overall the ban list was fine, other than, like, the idea that they're trying to reduce the consistency of the deck. Why not just remove the power of the deck? Like, you were better off of just, like, you know, banning Stormforth and just, like, keeping Aether in, because, like, the deck doesn't actually do anything particularly unfair without Stormforth. It's actually quite a slow deck, and you know, like Erebus is strong and stuff, but it like relying on Stormforth was essentially why the deck was so good outside of the mirror match. Was just being able to just untargeted removable was just amazing, right? And reducing power of decks is, you know, why not reduce the power of the decks than the consistency? Nobody wants to lose to just like opening garbage. Nobody wants to do that. People want to like play and know they gave it their all, and then lose because they lost to a better opponent. I feel like that's how people would prefer to lose a game, would be, I lost because my opponent beat me fair and square, not because my deck fell apart in my hand, you know what I mean? So, I mean, my overall conclusion is that I don't think this logic is good. I don't think this is how it should be done, and most certainly of all, the thing that I absolutely completely disagree with and honestly think is a complete joke and disgrace is the fact that they actually can say that they see floodgates as problems but not do anything about anti-spell or emptiness or mistake or rivalry or lose a turn and all this stuff that just like completely like breaks, like, you know, duels. Lose a turn not so much, whatever, but like, you know, we know what I mean, like just floodgates, like majesties and stuff. Dominion, oh my god, Dominion, how could I forget that card, you know? They could have just banned Domain and Stormforth in the deck, would have been like a lot more fair, you know what I'm saying? I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm missing something, so I'd like to know what you guys think about this. Obviously, they have their own ways about going about things, you know, and other people have other ways. I would have done things very differently, but you know, anyway, just let me know what you think down below, and I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions.